Doctors Without Borders. In May 1968, a group of doctors decided to volunteer and help the victims of war in terms of a much-needed health care. Soon, the group became a regular volunteer of International Committee of Red Cross, intervening armed conflicts, giving immediate aid, and conducting surgeries. Led by Max Kramer and Pascal Bosville, the doctors found life in their years of service and humanitarianism of emergency aid. This revolutionary concept went to become a bigger organization known today as the Médecins Sans Frontières, or MSF, more popularly known as the Doctors Without Borders. This nonprofit organization, founded on December 22, 1971, is a private international association mainly composed of doctors, health workers that provide assistance to victims of disasters and armed conflicts and to people in distressed areas. The organization started with 30 volunteers and 13 founding doctors and journalists. The humanitarianism of Doctors Without Borders is guided by medical ethics, independence from politics, and impartiality. No gender, race, religion, creed, or ideological convictions should hinder any member from exercising his or her work for the organization and the people. Moreover, the group does not silence themselves from the injustice they help eradicate. The Doctors Without Borders speak out publicly against violence and suffering. They also seek attention when access to life-saving medical care is hindered, when medical facilities come under threat, when crisis is neglected, or when the provision of aid is inadequate or abused. Indeed, their work is giving international health aid is without borders. Annually, 3,000 volunteers around the world join the organization in helping people in danger. Members who work in the field have different expertise in medicine, such as pharmacists, surgeons, and midwives, amongst others. Moreover, there are also volunteers who work in the office as administrators. Currently, the organization is looking for more members to volunteer in crisis-plagued countries like South Sudan and Central Africa. Aside from physicians and nurses, Doctors Without Borders is reaching out to mental health officers, technical logisticians, and anesthesiologists. Physical fitness, adaptability, and experience are given premium in applying as volunteers. Accepted applicants must dedicate 9 months of their lives doing fieldwork in distress and dangerous areas. To date, Doctors Without Borders provide healthcare in some 70 countries worldwide, including Nepal, Afghanistan, and Syria. As a nonprofit organization, support can come in donations, corporate sponsorship, fundraising events, campaign initiatives, and advocacy sharing. The projects of Doctors Without Borders focus on armed conflicts, epidemic malnutrition, natural disaster, exclusion from healthcare, expertise, and speaking out. In armed conflicts, the organization gives help to the wounded, sexually abused, and internally displaced. In cases of epidemics such as HIV, tuberculosis, Ebola, the organization established the Access Campaign for diagnostic and treatments for the patient. Through the Drugs of Neglected Diseases initiative, the researchers, practitioners, the pharmaceutical companies come together to explore alternative ways of developing medicine. For malnutrition, the Doctors Without Borders launched the Starved for Attention multimedia campaign to expose neglected crisis of childhood malnutrition and urged countries to contribute food assistance and resources for nutrition program. As for the natural disasters, the Doctors Without Borders are always ready for emergency medical relief, such as during Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines and the recent earthquakes in Nepal. In all other parts of the world, limited access to regular health care is always the biggest problem. The organization tries to bridge the gap and call on governments for accountability. For the years that Doctors Without Borders is operating, The association continuously sought to improve and expand its knowledge and expertise in the field of medicine. Moreover, they continuously upgrade and supply kits and equipment. In all these programs, in the years of conducting humanitarian work, Doctors Without Borders have helped 70 countries and millions of people. Jason Cohn, the executive director of the USA chapter, said, "Practicing medical humanitarian action is about helping strangers, people you have never met and may never see again. It is an act of protest against the suffering of others. Victims in conflict and disaster-prone areas may not have all lived after being rescued or may have not continued to live after medication, but being able to give aid, administer lasting projects, and speak out for the underprivileged are such huge fulfillments for the association. However, problems and unforeseen circumstances are inevitable. Volunteers face uncertainty for their lives. They may also be affected by the epidemic around a certain area, may be victimized by armed men, or may be distraught by disaster. Sometimes they may be cut short of supplies, such as in the case of Ebola outbreak in West Africa last year. Moreover, national policies may also be of hindrance when association is doing fieldwork. Furthermore, there is still a long way to go in uniting and calling out governments and international bodies to not to only help the organization in giving aid, but also in taking responsibility and creating resolutions in issues concerning universal and local healthcare systems. Lastly, Doctors Without Borders is constantly searching for funding resources to maintain its operations. Aside from providing emergency kits, setting up the program, and buying equipment and needs, the organization also gives wages to their volunteers and employees. Nevertheless, Doctors Without Borders have survived all these difficulties throughout the years, and the situations are improving. According to Dr. James Orbinski, the former president, silence has long been confused with neutrality and has been presented as a necessary condition for humanitarian action. We are not sure that words can always save lives, but we know that silence can certainly kill. This principle holds true to the stand of the association against political, economic, and cultural problems society, especially the poor, that they're experiencing today. The Doctors Without Borders immensely helped several countries in immeasurable amounts of effort, patience, and love for humanity. They will continue and passionately strive to do what they do best, as long as their volunteer work is still needed. To end, Dr. Urbinski said in his speech for the Nobel Peace Prize, "Humanitarianism is not a tool to end war or create peace. It is a citizen's response to political failure." Thank you.